All right, welcome back, everyone. So we're going to talk about the Green Heron this week. So I think this is our first heron episode, right?
Oh my gosh, maybe it is.
Yeah,
Wow.
somehow.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Going into this,
Yeah.
our Dia Day.
There's a few lineages that we have dissed, I would say. And this is one of them, but I think the general scientific community disses herons too. And I tried to figure out what kind of new trees of life there were for herons. And there's nothing. The 80s, there were papers in the 80s by, a colleague and friend of ours named Fred Sheldon, but there's been very little tree of life work that's been done on herons.
Huh.
So I thought to me, that was really interesting.
Are there a lot of different kinds of herons? I was like going off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With one thing I would note, which is that very few herons have really localized distributions.
Okay.
So the interesting thing about these birds, they're absolutely specialized to be fish eaters. There are no I don't think there are any palm nut vultures among the herons.
Yeah. Yeah.
They keep doing it, and so, yeah. And the big thing that what you see is in community structure across herons, there's a lot of similarity too. And this is interesting with respect to this bird in particular, because it's one of the smallest herons. And it's got a global distribution in the sense that the genus and things that look very similar to each other, even in Australia, have been considered to be sort of, they're closely related to one another. And so there's a bird called striated heron in South America. There's another African version of green heron. So they're super widespread, and they're just this about a foot tall and just really successful in terms of getting around. And a lot of other herons can do that too. So egrets are herons, and great egret is found all over the world. It's just, so it's an interesting group of birds because they've differentiated across the continents, but at the same time, the community structure is very similar as you go from place to place.
Yeah, I love just watching them hunt too. It's so much fun. Amanda and I saw one. I've told the story about how we sometimes go birding behind Michael Jordan's old house. There's this forest preserve near us that we realized the perimeter of it. There's this pond, and when Michael Jordan's house went for sale, there were all these Zillow listings, and we could see the pond that we always go to. That's just on the other side of the fence, and it's at that Heller Nature Center, John, which you've given a few talks there. But I mean, we were back there one time and saw. I mean, I know there's tons of videos of this online too, but it was like on a branch kind of hanging off, and it was like this kind of like little compact ball, and then really got to see its head like dart out, and it I mean, it's crazy because you see it's so compact, and then it stretch out, and its neck ends up being like longer than its whole body, and it caught something that was way further away than we thought it could have reached. I mean, it was so cool to see that like in person, because we'd seen videos of it, but it's something to see. They're pretty impressive.
I mean, they're definitely good at what they do.
They're so cool.
And then we were reading about that they use tools also, that they're one of the few birds that use tools when they hunt, or they have used tools. And that was incredible to read.
I thought that's funny because now they put bread, right? Because humans, they can put bread in to attract fish, but before it was pieces of feathers and sticks and stuff like that too, that they would use to get the fish into a small area where they could stab them. So they have really, really, really pointy, piercing beaks, and they don't just kind of open their mouth and get a fish. I mean, they actually spear it like it is, a fork, a pitchfork, or a knife. They actually do spear the fish that way.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
But again, because they're part of this community, so you look at great blue herons, which they co-occur with, for instance, along the Chicago River, and they're taking much smaller prey than great blue herons are. And so there's this neat community structure. As a matter of fact, Dave Willard, our retired collection manager at the Field Museum, did his dissertation looking at heron foraging for down in South America, and how the different types of sizes of fish across the different sizes of herons plays out in those areas, which is really cool.
Cool.
That is really cool.
So you could actually see like the green herons are catching smaller fish and the great blue herons are catching bigger fish.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really
So
cool.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
cool.
And then they forage at night too, I think, right? So I saw somewhere that they can forage during the day or at night. Do you
They're
know?
certainly crepuscular. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some little ones in South America. So one of my favorite herons is one called zigzag heron, which was one. It's widespread across the Amazon basin, and they definitely move around at night. And of course, night herons do too.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering whether
Oh.
green herons do something I've seen night herons do, which is, in addition to the tool using thing, I watched a immature night heron one time at Skokie Lagoons stick its bill in the water with the bill open and kind of wiggle it back and forth to make some
Oh.
ripples. And so it was another sort of using its bill to kind of see if it could attract any fish to come take a look at it.
That's
Oh,
so
cool.
cool.
I mean, it was fun to relearn something I think I knew before but didn't remember, which is, they fly with if their neck is in, they fly it with it in an S shape. And so that turns out they have more vertebrae than the length of their neck would look like. And so they hold it in an S to keep it aerodynamically close to their body. But the 6th cervical vertebrae is hinged, has this like hinge thing. And so when it's almost like cocking back a spring, so that when it uses the force of kind of releasing that spring to propel its beak really fast into the water to stab a fish. So their weight and they have a lot of patience, these birds do, to stay there for long periods of time until they get just whatever it is that they want to eat. But the idea of them spring loading their beaks in their neck I thought that was I like that imagery.
That's
Me
cool.
too. That's awesome. Yeah.
And one thing I hadn't thought about until I was looking at the range map, and if you go into Birds of the World, there's one of these maps that they've put together from eBird records where you can actually, if you go into eBird, you can see these range maps that have show the changing locations of sightings of great blue heron or of green herons across the seasons. And it's a bird that totally pulls out of its breeding range down into areas in the coast of Mexico and the Caribbean. And so a lot of the other herons, you can still find individuals in North America in the winter, but or in the U.S. in the winter. But for the most part, green herons are all moving down into southern Mexico and other places like that. So that says to me that they're really kind of a tropical species that's been able to expand northward over evolutionary time.
They have had a lot of taxonomic changes at both the common name level and the scientific name level. Are you a green heron? Are you green-backed heron? Are you greenish heron? There's been all kinds of changes, and then splitting of subspecies off into separate species, and then changing the name from green-backed to just green. And that doesn't apply to all of the things that were called green-backed in the past. If that doesn't make you confused, nothing will. But so it's a really complicated taxonomic and common name thing. So it's Butyroides or Butyrides, however you say it, virescence. And the virescence part means green, turning green, basically. And the Butyrides has to do with bitterns. And the whole where the word bittern comes from is like words are so bizarre.
So have you guys seen any bit?
From.
We saw one 2 summers
we
ago.
think
I
we
think.
saw
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember? So do you remember which kind?
No,
So
not off the top of my head.
least or American are the two here.
Okay.
And again, it's the same kind of thing where one least is about the size of a green heron, and then American bittern is about the size of a night heron. It's probably a little smaller.
Okay.
But it's there's a situation where there's a whole another lineage of herons with similar sized bodies and beaks that are sort of splitting up things.
And
Hmm.
juvenile green herons look very similar to a bittern, right? Because I think maybe one time we were with our birding group and I think we saw both, and we saw a juvenile green heron and thought it was, and then it wasn't, but then ended up seeing a bittern later. I don't remember which kind it
Yeah.
was though. Yeah.
So
I think
least bittern, I would say, is more of it's a marsh bird in these big, occurring in these big marshes, whereas green heron, well, I mean they love riverbanks and Skokie lagoons would be a beautiful place for them.
Yeah, we see a lot of green heron at the Skokie lagoons. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And bitterns are really hard to see, right? Or they're
Yeah,
yeah.
most of the time they are, and
Okay.
they vocalize at night more often than most of the herons do. But both of those birds are the least bittern and green heron are solitary nesters too. Some of the other herons will nest in these colonies in various places, the egrets and great blue heron and things like that. But because of that, green herons, they're easy to overlook just because they're so quiet and just sit there. But I think they're common enough that you see a lot more of them.
John, how many do you think we have, if you had to guess?
Well, so I think the problem is going to be the taxonomy. And so if it's covering everything, it's going to be on the order of 500.
If we cover everything in the genus, it's almost 800.
Yeah, okay.
Oh wow.
But just
wow.
of the green ones are 471.
Okay.
And that seemed like a lot to me. It's easy to forget just how awesome the collections are, how many individuals we have, so how many opportunities there are to study things.
So I described this as widespread, but one of the interesting things when you look at the eBird map is it's definitely a bird that is not common in the Great Plains.
Mm.
And I think the habitat just, there's not enough wooded streams and things. And so they're common along the Pacific coast, and into California a ways, but they get rare in the center part of the country for the most part, not including here because we're on the edge of the Great Plains.
And in 1912, Oberholzer recognized 18 subspecies. So goes to show just how crazy. And the funnest one for me is that there's a form, whatever you want to call it, on the Galapagos. It's called lava heron, and I love that name, lava heron. It's great.
Have those 18? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Amanda.
Oh, I was just going to ask, have those 18 subspecies, do those still stand, or is it one of those situations where they've? Okay, because John, we've talked about that, or
right?
We listened to a talk about that from you. Yeah,
subspecies can be pretty darn malleable, and I mean the thing is they're definitely widely distributed. So in addition to lava heron, I think there's another kind of weakly defined one in southern Baja, and the geography of it makes it plausible. But
they
there's
do
still
make mechanical sounds too. They snap their bills. The males do right before copulation. So they do have that going for them.
That's cool.
That's cool.
I mean, I feel like it's a bird that, because they're solitary nesters, oftentimes those birds can be ignored by researchers just because it's hard to get a lot of data on a bunch of different individuals.
So when I put this search term into Google, I wanted to see what came up. And one of the top things that Google search is, how do I stop herons from eating my fish?
This is a bird that would show up at a koi pond.
Exactly. Get out of my expensive fish pond.
Oh.
Funny.
Would a heron ever be aggressive to a person?
I was told a story at one point from one of the Chicago bird collision monitors of being asked there was a dead bird somewhere, and I think it was up on a roof or something, and they got there and they went out on the roof, and it was an American bittern, which is a bigger bird, and something was wrong with it, but it was still very much alive.
Oh.
And the thing is with that neck, you want to be kind of careful.
Oh,
Oh.
gosh.
Yeah.
You want to keep them from being able to stab at you for sure.
Yeah, if
Wow.
it's
Oh my
spring loading that
gosh.
neck at your hand, you might not be enjoying it so much.
Oh my gosh. John,
We-
what
so-
happened to the person that tried to do the rescue?
He was able to get the neck and control it, but he said it one, he was out there to get a dead bird because they thought it was
Oh.
dead, and then when he got there and it wasn't, and it was something that he knew could actually hit him in the eye and probably do some major damage.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh. It's a
Thinking, man,
brave person. Man.
Do you think, Amanda and RJ, when you look at these things through binoculars for the first few times, do you see the iridescence in the green on the back?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, I guess, what the way the sun is hitting, but I definitely at times notice it. Yeah, Amanda, what do you think?
same here. Yeah. I was going to say, I always think this is a funny name for this bird because I don't think of the green as the most striking thing about it. It's kind of like, why is it called
I think
that?
the reason they're
Yeah.
called green is because the other ones in the other parts of the distribution, they're brown. Like I literally think that that's the only reason why it's like, yeah, that's sort of green. I mean, there's a lot of chestnut too.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, I think
Yeah.
I think every once in a while I'll take a picture of one in the breeding season and just like look at it and go, man, that's a pretty bird.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But not green. Yeah.
Not green.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Like, so,
I'm saying that's not really all that green.
yeah. I
We
agree.
saw
They are
we
so
saw
pretty.
a nest last summer. We were up in Wisconsin, and there was this area where it was like a pier where a bunch of people parked their boats, and there was a tree up above, and we were walking on the pier, and it was just covered in bird poop. There was this section, and I know that people that are listening are like, all right, that means there's a bird there. But for people that are new too, that's an easy way to spot where a nest is if you see a bunch of poop. And so we looked up above and saw like it was just like all these sticks everywhere. It wasn't very. So I was reading about their nests too, and it doesn't sound like they're very. It just kind of they put a bunch of sticks together, and it's not super structured. But I think were there 3 chicks,
Yes.
Amanda, that we saw,
Yes.
and they were up on the nest, and they were kind of walking like there were these branches too that they were up next to, and the mom was nowhere in sight. So we got to, and it was really hard to see. It was very kind of covered in, I don't know, leaves and everything. So it was hard to see, but we had our binoculars and could see them. But it was a super cool experience to see. But I was asking earlier if they would ever get aggressive with the human, because I think we started thinking like, we don't want to get too close to this thing, because
Right.
I mean, I know how sharp their bill is, and I don't know
Yeah.
whether or not it would do anything to us. I didn't know, but
I
I had
think
the
they-
thought. I was okay.
Yeah.
I think the young ones certainly would just jump away. One of the things I wanted
Yeah.
to mention was that poop on the ground is poop that's not in the nest. And what I mean by that
Oh.
is from a very young age, the chicks will actually get over to the edge of the nest and actually poop out of it.
Oh,
And I think that may be
So
an
smart.
adaptation to avoid having flies and other things come around if you're pooping in your nest all the time.
that's so
So
smart.
Smart.
They also
Yes.
poop if humans kind of disturb them. They poop when they fly away too. And so I didn't
Oh.
realize that there were some funny things in the Birds of the World account saying that there's some nicknames for them when they do that. Fly up the creek and shite poke and chuck line for the white poop. That was funny.
That's hilarious. That is funny.
I didn't
Funny.
know they were called that. Did you know that, John, that they have these nicknames?
I mean, they're a perfect example of a bird that people in the countryside are going to see on a regular basis. I mean, what that reminds me of is when we were in Louisiana, it's realizing that almost everybody in Louisiana has a fishing pole in the back of their car. And so you'll just be driving along some random road and there's a car pulled over and somebody's dropped a line. And that means that they're also sitting out there and going to see green herons on a semi-regular basis and watch them poop.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I also wanted to go back to like the using tools, and so I read that they they call it like bait fish, where they will use like captured prey to lure in other things. And I thought, like, I mean, they must be so smart to know, like, because they have food already, and to know that they could get better food by using this. It's like, it's not like they're just using a stick to lure them. They have something that they could already eat, and then we'll use that to lure a bigger.
They're catching mayflies and things like that to bait for their fish.
I'd be fascinated to know, because I don't think the bigger herons do anything like that.
Oh, just
there's some various things they do, but like great blue heron, I don't think would ever do that.
Okay.
And I mean, that's really cool, and implies that if you did a brain scan, you'd expect to have some interesting areas of activity that don't occur in some of the other species, I think.
Maybe parts of its brain lights up similar to, Darwin's finches using tools, and other birds using tools. I have no idea. It's cool, though.
Which is funny, because I would generally say I think of herons as having really small brains for the body.
Okay.
But that's an amazing behavior that they've clearly been able to modify in various situations to their benefit. So I think there's absolutely some interesting things to pursue there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so smart.
Is there anything else on green herons we want to chat about, or should we get to our next round of?
They'll be coming back soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love them.
All right, so round 3 of our round robin tournament. All right, so we have the horned lark. This is the LSU students. This is who they've chosen. So they have the horned lark against the cedar waxwing, and they went against Nick. The cedar waxwing won 10-4.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Amazing.
I would have gone horned lark on that, just to stay in line.
Yeah.
I guess no. What it's saying is partying wins.
Yeah.
Horned larks don't party.
Someone said, I feel like there's a horned lark bias in honor of our curator. Though I love our curator, I hate bias as a scientist. I must go with my gut on this one, cedar waxwing.
Awesome.
Good luck with that one.
Well, it's actually varied thrush, so nice try.
Okay. And someone else said, waxwings know how to party.
Yes. Wow, there is a theme.
There is. All right. And then next is, let me make sure I'm reading the right one here. Laughing Kookaburra against the clubbed wing mannequin, and the clubbed wing mannequin won 8-6. A close one. The clubbed wing mannequin is on fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Someone just said
I
in all
agree.
caps, feathers.
I don't know. I mean, Kookaburra's got some nice feathers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I want to dump some others out of the pool so that you can pick.
I just want varied thrush in there.
I already put varied thrush in there. So
So the advancing to the final 4 then are the cedar waxwing and the clubbed wing mannequin.
That
Yeah.
good choice.
Yeah. I think the college students' priority. There's the partying and then the mating
Now we'll-
display.
Yes.
Partying and mating.
Yeah. Well, I got my prediction on the next round for that.
Okay. All right. So time to do our side then. So we have the spoon-billed sandpiper against the blue-gray gnatcatcher.
Ooh.
I'm going to be alone on this one, but I'm going with the gnat catcher.
I'll go with gnatcatcher too.
no, oh my God, spoon-billed sandpiper, John, what the heck?
I'm going spoon-billed sandpiper. So I think we got to toss the coin.
Okay.
Yeah, and you better
All
do
right.
it right, Amanda.
I will. John,
Nope,
you
that's
call the... Who's 100 for this?
Blue-gray gnatcatcher is 100.
Okay.
Oh. Spoon-billed sandpiper.
Okay. Now I know there's not
Sure.
anything wrong with this coin.
We were in overtime there for a little bit.
All right. The next one is a tough matchup. We've got the American Dipper against the Inti Tanager.
Going with the dipper.
Dipper.
I went with the tanager.
I'm going dipper. Yeah.
I'm not unhappy about that.
Okay, good. Because Shannon, you didn't you see a bunch of dippers in New Jersey,
Or when
was
they're
that a
out when they're out
skimmer?
west.
Yeah, in British Columbia, you mean?
Oh,
In
that's
British-
what
yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
We
I
got to
hope
show you
I
this
didn't.
video of there's a bird in South America called rufous-throated dipper. And it's down in Argentina and Chile. And I just saw a really nice video that Marky Muchler, one of our students, shot of it on a trip she had down there. It's really cool.
That's awesome. Never heard of that one. That's awesome.
All right, so the final four then is the cedar waxwing against the clubwing manakin and the spoon-billed sandpiper against the American dipper. I think that's a pretty good final four.
Wow.
Shannon, do you concur?
Yeah, that's fine. Because I've
No
erased
problem.
cedar
Buffer and-
waxwing and inserted buried thrush in my mind, so we're all good.
Okay. All right. Well, anything else this week?
Nope. Spring will be coming. It
That's
will
right.
warm up here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. If you have a pink heating pad, it will warm up. Otherwise, you go outside, you're going to get frostbite.